Chapter 111. My kingdom is taking shape. As he continues, a group of orcs and lizard folk sit at a makeshift tavern, drinking and sharing tales. I heard one of the minotaurs broke a training dummy clean in half. An orc rumbles. Just with a headbutt. The lizard folk flicks his tongue thoughtfully. Who would have thought that we monsters would have a day like this? The orc leans back, his drink sloshing slightly in his mug. Do you know the appearance of our king? He made all this, made us live comfortably. We should at least remember his face. We don't even know our king's name. The lizard man shrugs, his scaled tail curling lazily. No one knows the appearance of our king. There's a rumor, though, that the capital city of the kingdom is so majestic that soldiers say it's like something out of a storybook. The orc grunts, a hint of envy in his tone. That's right. I tried to apply to become a soldier, but I didn't pass. Those who make it into the capital never want to leave. Must be something to see. Similar conversations echo throughout the streets, from the lively market corners to the shadowed alleys. Stories of the unseen king who united them all are shared by old warriors and young monsters alike. Alex listens quietly, the corners of his mouth curving into a faint smile. It's a curious experience to hear his own mythos recounted to him, exaggerated and reshaped by each telling. Eventually, Alex's steps take him to the heart of Mizorn, where several inns stand side by side. Some are modest, catering to travelers passing through, while others boast larger, more established presences. However, at the center of it all stands the Iron Hearth in one of his blueprints. The building's structure is solid and polished. The walls are reinforced stone, but the windows and archways have artistic carvings that reflect a monster's craftsmanship. He steps inside, and the atmosphere is immediately welcoming. Laughter and conversation fill the air. A group of goblins bicker playfully with a troll bartender, while a gnoll waitress serves drinks with a toothy grin. Despite the diversity of the patrons, there's a sense of camaraderie, like everyone here belongs. Alex notes the staff, efficient, polite, and seamless in their work. The blueprints he created, just like in the game, don't only provide the structure but also the people to maintain it. Workers who seem as if they have their own lives, personalities. It still amazes him sometimes how the game mechanics have molded reality here. As Alex steps deeper into the bustling inn, several staff members glance his way. There's a brief flicker of recognition in their eyes, a glimmer that tells him they know exactly who he is. Their king, their creator. Despite his changed appearance, no disguise can fool those born from his blueprints. But Alex's thoughts reach out, a silent command that echoes through their minds. Just act like I'm not here. Welcome to the Iron Hearth. What can I get for you today? She asks, her voice chipper and genuine. Alex smiles, playing the part of a regular customer. Just a meal, something hearty, and a drink to go with it. Coming right up, the gnoll chirps, jotting down the order before moving away. Alex chooses a seat near a window, his gaze drifting over the lively patrons. Conversations overlap, adventurers boasting of their hunts, traders discussing deals. A trio of young goblins eagerly planning to explore the dungeon. As Alex quietly eats his meal, a group of monsters at the table beside him start a lively conversation. There are two wolfkin, a lizard folk, and a satyrs, their plates half empty and mugs clinking occasionally. Hey, do you guys want to check out the new dungeon that's about to open? The wolfkin says, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Yeah, I do, the satyrs replies eagerly. But I heard you need to be at least tier 2 to enter it or have a tier 2 in your group. The other wolfkin grumbles, scratching his head. Tier 2, huh? I'm still tier 1. Barely got any skills worth bragging about. The lizard man leans back with a smug flick of his tail. Well, then you're in luck. I just broke through to tier 2 yesterday. The group pauses, staring at the lizard man in surprise. Seriously? The satyrs asks, his eyes wide. That's awesome. The orc with the chipped tusk slaps the lizardman's shoulder with a hearty laugh. Looks like we got our ticket, boys. With a tier 2 in our group, we can explore that dungeon. After finishing his meal, Alex leaves the Iron Hearth Inn and continues his exploration of Mizorn. The streets remain lively, filled with monsters of all shapes and sizes, each seeming to have found their own place in this growing city. Despite knowing that Thano had limited resources, Alex feels satisfied with what he sees. The city has a sense of life, a vibrancy that no human settlement he's visited could replicate. Even with the Iron Tier blueprints, the buildings surpass what the three human kingdoms could build. With a thought, Alex teleports to Delon, the city known as the hub of blacksmiths and artisans. As he appears in the heart of the city, the sound of hammers clanging on anvils and the crackling of forges fills the air. Monsters with soot-covered faces, some carefully etching intricate designs on weapons, and even shaping raw iron with ease, it all unfolds before him. A pair of cyclopses argue loudly over the best way to temper a massive greatsword. A kobold with delicate, precise movements inspects a set of jeweled daggers, ensuring the balance is just right. "Hey, I told ya, quenching it too fast will make it brittle," a cyclops bellows, waving a hammer. "Bah, and I said it'll hold just fine. We ain't making decorations here," the other retorts. Nearby, a old monster instructs a young ogre on shaping armor plates. "Steady, keep your strikes measured. Armor isn't just metal, it's protection." The Minotaur rumbles. Chapter 112. Celestia Magisterium. Alex takes it all in, the organized chaos of the artisans working tirelessly. The city lives up to its reputation. As he walks, he overhears a conversation between a group of human merchants dressed in fine clothes. "How can these monsters craft weapons like this?" one merchant mutters, his eyes wide as he inspects a rack of spears. "This quality, some are better than the famous blacksmiths in the Three Kingdoms." Another merchant, a woman with a calculating gaze, crosses her arms. "I hate to admit it, the monsters are very talented. Who would have thought monsters could create such things?" Alex smirks faintly at their conversation, understanding the depth of the change his influence has wrought. He teleports again, this time to Crass City, the site of the kingdom's largest marketplace right now. Unlike the modest market squares of the human cities, Crass is a vast expanse filled with towering stalls and pavilions. Deftly barter, they display intricate trinkets, and big monsters oversee trade routes with surprising efficiency. A human merchant shakes his head, looking at a towering stone structure, a trade hall for auctions. "Who built all this?" he mutters. "I've traveled through all three kingdoms, and I've never seen anything like it." A monster nearby grins toothily. "Our king did, the one that create miracles. Welcome to Crass City, human." Finally, Alex teleports to Veristan City, the last stop on his tour. Unlike the bustling activity of the other cities, Veristan has a quieter, more contemplative atmosphere. The streets are less crowded, and many of the monsters here carry tomes, staffs, and enchanted trinkets. At the heart of the city stands the mage academy called Celestia Magisterium, a towering structure that contrasts sharply with the simpler iron-tier buildings that surround it. The academy is a silver rarity blueprint, the most costly. The funds poured into its construction nearly drained the 1,500,000 gold coins, but the result is a building that exudes an aura of arcane knowledge. Crystal orbs glow softly atop spires, intricate runes are etched into the walls, and enchanted banners ripple in non-existent winds. As Alex approaches, he notices a group of aspiring students. Kobolds, goblins, and even a few trolls practicing basic spells in the open training yard. A pair of academy staff members, created by the blueprint, observe and guide them. Though their knowledge is adequate for teaching beginners, they lack the expertise to instruct higher-level spells. Alex steps inside the academy, where hallways are lined with polished stone and glowing glyphs. Students shuffle between classrooms, clutching spellbooks and muttering incantations under their breath. Despite the academy's grandeur, there's a sense of incompleteness, like a stage set waiting for its main performers. He spots Groth, now the headmaster, near a grand staircase. The old salamander monster stands with his hands clasped behind his back, his scales a muted, weathered green with streaks of gray. Despite his age, Groth's eyes are sharp and observant, following the progress of each student with a mix of patience and discernment. "Groth!" Alex calls out. Groth turns, his gaze landing on Alex before a smile pulls at the corners of his scaled mouth. "Ah, you are here, your majesty. Visiting to see how your precious academy fares." "Just taking a look," Alex replies, his eyes scanning the bustling halls. "How are things here?" Groth chuckles, a raspy sound like dry leaves rustling. "Ha! It's a fine building, no doubt. The students are eager, the staff reliable, but a fine blade is useless without a proper hand to wield it." Alex nods, understanding. "Still lacking teachers?" Groth grumbles, his gaze falling to a group of young orcs struggling to conjure a basic fireball. "We've had many applicants. Goblins who can barely light a candle, ogres whose idea of magic is smashing a rock with their fists. Tier 1s, most of them, eager but lacking. Any promising ones?" Alex inquires. "Here and there," Groth admits, his voice thoughtful. "A gnoll with a knack for wind magic. A troll who shows surprising finesse with enchantments. But even they are barely tier 2. We need more. Monsters who have truly walked the path of magic, who can guide these students past the basics." Alex watches as a young gnoll finally conjures a small flicker of flame, earning applause from his peers. There is potential here, raw and unrefined. Alex crosses his arms, his gaze steady. "Just keep on teaching here, Groth. If we really can't find any suitable teachers, I'll handle it myself." In his mind, he's already considering the possibility of resurrecting mages from the mage tower of his capital city. Even the weakest mage there is level 400, a formidable force compared to the monsters here. However, resurrecting even one of them would demand an enormous amount of gold coins. Still, if it's necessary to ensure the Academy's success, it might be worth it. Groth tilts his head, a thoughtful glint in his aged eyes. "Very well, your majesty. I'll continue as you wish. Truth be told, teaching these talented young ones is a far more pleasant task than constantly marching onto the battlefield. There's joy in seeing a spark ignite in their eyes when they finally grasp a spell." Alex glances around at the students practicing in the training yard, their faces lit with focus and determination. There's something admirable about Groth's dedication, about the way he's adjusted to this new role. "Then keep nurturing them, Groth," Alex says firmly. "And if we need more than that, if the time comes when your guidance isn't enough, I'll bring in someone who can fill the gaps." Groth bows his head, a respectful and genuine gesture. "I will do as you say, your majesty." As Alex turns to leave, Groth calls out, "And thank you, your majesty, for this academy, for giving us more than just strength. We now have wisdom to pursue." Alex pauses, offering a final nod before stepping away. The sound of incantations and the hum of magic fill the air behind him, a melody of growth and promise. Chapter 113. The war continues. In the grand palace of Ralthian Kingdom, tension hangs thick in the air. The meeting chamber, usually a place of diplomacy and strategy, now feels more like a battlefield. King Edric sits at the head of the long, ornately carved table, his fingers tapping impatiently against the polished wood. His expression is sour, no, furious. Even with the severity of the situation, the rulers of Ordea and Valgros have only sent representatives. He had personally written letters to both kings, expecting their presence, but all he received were envoys. His gaze sharpens as he leans forward, his voice carrying the weight of his frustration. "So, did the two of them agree to help me?" The representative from Ordea, a middle-aged man in a fine navy blue coat, clears his throat before responding. "Yes, your highness. His Majesty has agreed to allow you to issue a sovereign's call to arms through the Adventurers Guild, under one condition." He pauses, watching King Edric's expression. "For the next 5 years, trade between our kingdoms must be conducted at a 30% discount off market prices." King Edric's fingers tighten into a fist against the table. 30%? His voice is laced with disbelief. "That's robbery. You expect me to cripple my own economy just to get help?" The Ordea envoy remains composed. It is a generous offer, considering the circumstances. The guild may not fall under the rule of any kingdom, but as you know, each kingdom can only issue a sovereign's call to arms to the adventurers' guild within their own territory. Ordea is making an exception. His eyes flick toward the Valgro's representative, a man clad in dark green, his expression unreadable. And what of your king? What does he demand? The Valgro's envoy folds his hands calmly. His Majesty King Rewalt is willing to lend assistance, but only if Ralphian formally cedes the border city of Gilder to Valgros. A heavy silence settles over the room. Edric's fingers tighten against the table's edge. Gilder, a strategically vital city, was already contested territory between their kingdoms. Handing it over would be a devastating loss, but without aid, his kingdom might face an even greater disaster. Edric's mind races, the weight of the decision pressing down on him like an iron shackle. If he refuses, his kingdom may not last another year. The enemy looks like it's about to attack again, and despite his attempts to reach out to the king of the monsters, the responses he receives are always vague, as if they are deliberately stalling him. Finally, he exhales sharply and straightens in his chair. Give me time to consider. His voice is firm, but there's an undeniable edge of weariness. The Ordea representative inclines his head slightly. Of course, Your Highness, but I advise you not to delay for too long. Every passing day tilts the balance further against you. The Valgro's envoy remains silent, merely offering a knowing look before standing. We will await your response, King Edric. But understand, our king does not make offers twice. As the two envoys depart, Edric remains seated, his hands clenched into fists. His kingdom's future hinges on choices he never wanted to make. If only that damned monster king would give me a clear answer. Back in the heart of Erevaris, Alex stands in a grand chamber, a dimly lit hall lined with towering obsidian pillars. The air hums with a quiet intensity as he gazes down at Cissari. Her three eyes shimmer with an eerie intelligence, her serpentine body coiling slightly as she awaits his command. Alex speaks, his voice calm yet resolute. Go now and implement our next move. Cissari bows her elongated head, her voice as smooth as silk. As you wish, Your Majesty. With fluid grace, she turns. Moments later, a sealed message is sent to the Ralphian kingdom, bearing a simple yet devastating declaration. The Erevaris kingdom will only stop if the Ralphian kingdom becomes a subject state. Back in Ralphian, King Edric reads the message in his private chamber. His hands shake as he grips the parchment, his breathing heavy, his vision blurs with rage. A bitter, humorless laugh escapes his lips. They're not demanding his submission in name alone, they want complete control. They must be so confident in themselves. His fingers crumple the message as his blood boils hotter. His body trembles, not with fear, but with unyielding fury. His eyes burn with a bloodthirsty light. Then, let's fight to the end. His decision is made. He storms back to the meeting chamber, his movements stiff with anger. Without hesitation, he looks to the Ordea and Valgro's envoys and growls. I accept your terms. The Ordea envoy nods, his expression one of quiet satisfaction. The Valgro's representative merely smirks. Edric does not care. Let them think they've won something. This war will not end with submission. It will end in blood. Back in Erevaris, Alex sits in his war chamber, a massive map of Ralphian spread across the polished stone table before him. The glow of magical lanterns casts sharp shadows across the room. At his side stands General Varkas. Across from them, Cissari glides into the chamber, her three luminous eyes flickering with intrigue. She bows slightly before speaking. Your Majesty, Ralphian has made its choice. They will fight to the end. Alex leans back in his chair, exhaling softly. Expected. His fingers drum against the armrest. And our forces? Varkas steps forward, his deep voice filled with quiet confidence. The army is now 50,000 strong. They are disciplined, well-equipped, and eager for battle. We are ready to move. Alex studies the map in silence, his gaze sharp as he traces the borders of Ralthian. He already anticipated this response. Humans are stubborn and unwilling to bend. Varkas smirks, a glint of anticipation in his eyes. We'll strike swiftly, seize control before their reinforcements arrive. Alex nods. Take what you need. Keep casualties low, but make it clear Ralthian is crumbling. And if their king still refuses to kneel, he pauses, his expression turning colder. We will grind them into dust. Varkas places a fist over his chest in salute. Understood, Your Majesty. With that, he turns and strides out of the chamber, already barking orders to his officers. Days later, the front lines. Smoke rises in thick plumes over the conquered cities. In just a few days, 3 key strongholds of Ralthian have fallen. General Varkas, leading with ruthless efficiency, commands the battlefield like a seasoned predator. The enemy forces, outnumbered and outmatched, fall like leaves before a storm. Yet, just as expected, the reinforcements from Ordea and Valgros arrive. Their banners stretch across the horizon, a tide of warriors rallying to Edric's cause. With their aid, Ralthian finally manages to halt the advance, forcing Erevaris to hold their positions. But no Tier 5 combatants have entered the battlefield yet. The real war is only beginning. Inside a fortified war tent near Ralthian's front lines, 2 figures stand facing each other over a large map spread across an iron table. The air inside is tense, but not with hostility. Rather, a sharp anticipation of the battle ahead. One of them, clad in heavy black armor, rests a massive greatsword against his shoulder. His short, messy blonde hair is damp with sweat, and his green eyes gleam with the thrill of war. This is Pavel, the only adamantite-ranked adventurer in the Ordea kingdom, a Tier 5 warrior known for his raw power and unbreakable resilience. Across from him, a tall, imposing man clad in a dark green military coat with silver embroidery stands with his arms crossed. His presence alone commands respect. Marshal Zinov, the strongest of Valgros' 3 marshals. His piercing gray eyes are calculating, his every movement precise and efficient. Unlike Pavel's wild energy, Zinov carries himself with an air of absolute control. Pavel lets out a low whistle as he looks Zinov up and down. The Valgros kingdom is really going all out this time. They even sent you here. Zinov's expression remains unreadable. King Rewalt does not take unnecessary risks. Erevaris is no ordinary foe. He taps a spot on the map, the latest city Erevaris has taken. If we do not act carefully, this war will be over before Ralthian realizes it. Garen grins, cracking his neck. Careful, huh? I prefer direct. Get in, cut down their commanders, break their morale. That usually does the trick. He pats the hilt of his greatsword, a weapon nearly as long as he is tall. Besides, that Tier 5 monster on their side has shown up yet. Maybe he's scared. Zinov's sharp gray eyes narrow as he fixes Pavel with a cold stare. We need to plan and work together if we're going to fight that monster. His voice is steady, but there's an unmistakable edge to it. Don't underestimate the enemy. One of our kingdom's marshals was killed by that thing. Pavel's grin fades slightly, his fingers tightening around the grip of his greatsword. So the rumors were true then? He exhales sharply, shaking his head. Damn. Which one? Marshal Draven. Zinov's tone is flat, but the weight of the words is heavy. He was a seasoned warrior, a Tier 5 who had fought in more battles than most men could count. And yet he died. A moment of silence lingers between them. Pavel's usual cocky energy dims, replaced by something more serious. How did it happen? Zinov glances at the map, his fingers tapping lightly on the edge of the table. We still don't have a clear account. The scouts only said one thing. It wasn't a fight. It was a massacre. The enemy didn't even take Draven seriously. His eyes flicker with something rare caution. And that's just one enemy. We don't even know if Erevaris has other Tier 5 monsters waiting in the shadows. Chapter 114. Nasara, Thurn, and Vertha become Tier 4. On the outskirts of the contested city, a massive force stands ready. 50,000 monstrous soldiers, their forms casting eerie shadows under the dim sky, await the order to strike. They are led by 4 figures, Soren, Nasara, Thurn, and Veltha, each commanding specialized units tailored to their strengths. Nasara, now a Tier 4 commander, stands at the front of her division. Clad in dark, heavy armor, her presence is as unshakable as the creatures behind her. Monsters bred for defense, their hulking forms resembling living fortresses. Their thick hides gleam under the faint light, shields and natural armor braced for the impending clash. Beside her, Veltha also got promoted to a commander, also a Tier 4, the wind rustling through her long silver hair. Her command consists of fast-moving monsters, agile and relentless, their sleek bodies built for rapid strikes and precise destruction. The air around them is filled with anticipation, the beasts shifting restlessly as if eager to be unleashed. Thurn, the same as the 2, got promoted and breakthrough to Tier 4. His eyes glinting with cold amusement, stands among his forces, monsters steeped in poison, their very existence a walking plague. Venom drips from fangs and claws, and the scent of toxicity lingers in the air. The battlefield ahead is not just a place of war. It will be a breeding ground for death. Soren surveys the city ahead with an expression of quiet intensity. Unlike the others, her authority is not defined by a specific combat style but by her unwavering command over the entire force. The city walls loom in the distance, filled with defenders, 50,000 strong, a mix of Ralthian's battered army and the newly arrived reinforcements from Ordea and Valgros. She speaks, her voice calm but firm. Although most of them are adventurers, we shouldn't underestimate them. After all, they're from Ordea. Nasara nods, arms crossed over her plated chest. Ordea adventurers are tough, that's what the rumors said. But they're not invincible. We just have to break them properly. Veltha tilts her head toward Soren. What's the plan? Soren looks over the battlefield, taking in the terrain, the defenses, and the formation of the enemy. We split the attack into 3 waves. Nasara, your forces will take the lead. Your job isn't to break through immediately. It's to absorb their attacks, hold the line, and wear them down. Nasara smirks. Leave it to me. Soren continues, eyes flickering toward Veltha. Once they're engaged, you and your monsters strike next. Speed is your greatest advantage. Don't give them time to reorganize. Hit them hard and fast. Veltha's eyes gleam. Sounds fun. Finally, Soren shifts her gaze to Thurn. You will follow last. By then, their formation should be weakened. That's when you strike. Flood their ranks with poison. Make sure their healers are overwhelmed. Thurn nods, a slow, knowing smile creeping across his face. They'll be too busy gasping for air to put up much of a fight. Soren exhales, her gaze lingering on the enemy city. This battle won't be easy, but if we execute this right, we'll be able to conquer this city. The air is thick with tension. 50,000 monstrous warriors stand ready, their breaths heavy, their claws, fangs, and weapons poised for war. Across the battlefield, the city's defenders tighten their grips on their weapons, their banners fluttering violently in the wind. The clash is inevitable. Soren raises her arm, and a deafening silence falls over the monster army. Then, with a single motion, she brings it down. A monstrous roar erupts as Nasara's vanguard surges forward. The ground trembles as towering, heavily armored monsters charge across the battlefield. Their sheer size and unyielding defenses make them living battering rams. Shields lock together, forming an unstoppable wall of steel and flesh. From the city walls, a storm of arrows and spells rains down. Fiery projectiles streak through the air, crashing into the advancing horde. Explosions tear through the earth, sending dust and shattered stone flying. Some monsters fall, their bodies consumed by fire or pierced by enchanted bolts, but the line does not break. Nasara, leading from the front, lifts her massive shield, deflecting a barrage of incoming projectiles. A blast of fire slams into her, but she emerges unscathed, her armor glowing red-hot before cooling almost instantly. Hold the line, she roars. Advance. A hail of arrows pelts her shield, but she pushes forward, her troops following in perfect formation. The city gates loom closer. Then, with a thunderous crash, the first impact occurs. Ralphian's front line meets Nasara's forces head-on. The clash of metal against flesh is deafening. Warriors are sent flying as the monsters smash into them like a tidal wave. Shields splinter, weapons break, and the defenders struggle to hold their ground. From the rear, a group of adventurers steps forward. One of them, a hulking man wielding a massive warhammer, slams it into the ground. A shockwave ripples outward, toppling several monsters. Another adventurer on top of the walls, a mage clad in blue robes, raises a hand, summoning jagged ice spears that pierce through the first row of charging creatures. Nasara watches as several of her monsters collapse, frozen solid or crushed beneath the hammer's force. She exhales slowly, rolling her shoulders before striding forward, her heavy armor gleaming in the chaos of battle. Then her gaze locks onto the warhammer-wielding adventurer. A grin tugs at the corner of her lips. Oh, a strong one. The man, an ironclad warrior, meets her gaze. His grip tightens on the warhammer, its runes pulsing with a deep, molten glow. You must be one of their commanders, he says, his voice steady despite the carnage around them. Nasara chuckles. Yeah, I'm the commander. She plants her feet firmly into the ground, her 6 crimson eyes locking onto him. Her armor, a deep obsidian black with veins of shimmering silver, gleams under the fiery glow of battle. Her fingers flex over the hilt of her weapon, a massive great shield, its surface jagged like the carapace of a monstrous beast. The adventurer exhales sharply, shifting his stance. Name's Gar. He hefts his warhammer onto his shoulder, his muscles tensing. And if you're leading this charge, that means I get to crush you first. Chapter 115. Assassin vs. Mage. Nasara tilts her head, an amused gleam in her eyes. Talk big while you can, human. Let's see if you can back it up. Then she moves. The ground cracks beneath her as she lunges forward, her great shield raised like a battering ram. Gar barely has time to brace before she slams into him. The impact is like a cataclysmic quake. Dust and debris explode outward as his feet dig into the dirt, his body sliding back several meters despite his immense strength. The force nearly buckles his arms, but he grits his teeth and retaliates. With a roar, he swings his warhammer in a wide arc. The runes on its surface flare, sending out a burst of concussive force. Nasara reacts instantly. Her lower limbs, thick, armored arachnid legs, dig into the ground, anchoring her as she raises her shield to absorb the blow. The hammer crashes against it with a deafening boom, sending shockwaves rippling through the battlefield. She slides back, but she doesn't falter. She grins. Not bad. Gar narrows his eyes. You too, monster. Before he can recover, she retaliates. With terrifying speed, she swings her shield like a battering weapon. He ducks just in time, but the sheer force of the air pressure alone sends nearby soldiers flying. She doesn't stop there. Her armored legs burst into motion, weaving an unpredictable pattern as she circles him, striking with a combination of her shield and razor-sharp clawed gauntlets. Gar blocks, parries, and evades, his warhammer moving like a whirlwind, but Nasara is relentless. Their fight becomes a furious exchange of power, each blow shaking the battlefield. Meanwhile, the battle rages around them. Veltha's fast-moving monsters dart through the chaos, striking at weak points, cutting down mages and archers before vanishing into the fray. Thurn's forces wait like vipers, watching for the perfect moment to release their venomous terror upon the battlefield. The adventurers fight with desperate ferocity. Blades clash, spells explode, and the air is filled with the roars of monsters and the screams of dying soldiers. Back in the duel, Gar sees an opening. He channels raw power into his warhammer and swings upward, aiming for Nasara's exposed side. For a moment, it seems like he's going to land a decisive blow. But then, his weapon stops. Nasara's armored hand grips the shaft of his warhammer, stopping it inches from her body. Her grip tightens, and with a single heave, she lifts Garen clean off the ground. His eyes widen. What? Before he can react, she twists and slams him into the earth with monstrous strength. The ground shatters beneath him, a crater forming from the sheer force of impact. Dust billows. The battlefield momentarily pauses as soldiers and monsters alike glance toward the site of destruction. Nasara stands over him, her expression calm. She watches as Garen coughs, struggling to push himself up, his warhammer lying a few feet away. She exhales. That was a good fight. While 3 dominates the battlefield below, Soren is already where she thrives. Above the chaos, in the shadows. Soren moves with a stealth skill on across the city walls, her twin daggers slick with fresh blood. The sun casts long shadows over the stone parapets, but she remains unseen, a ghost amid the chaos. The defenders on the walls had been a serious problem, archers and mages raining death down on the battlefield, thinning their forces. That was before she got here. Now, a lifeless body slumps against the battlements. Another collapses before he can even turn. One after another, archers and spellcasters fall, their deaths quick and quiet. Some never even realize their throats have been slit before darkness takes them. Soren exhales, standing over a pile of corpses. The city below still fights fiercely, but here, the resistance is fading. Almost done. Her crimson eyes flick toward her real target, the lever that controls the city gate. If she can reach it, the entire battle shifts. Then, a sharp crack splits the air. Magic flares. Soren leaps back just in time as a pillar of ice erupts where she stood, shards of frost tearing through the stone. A powerful chill fills the air, and she spins toward the source. A lone figure stands between her and the gate controls. A Tier 4 mage. He's older, dressed in ornate blue robes, his beard streaked with white. A heavy staff rests in his grip, glowing with an eerie frost-blue light. His eyes lock onto Soren, sharp with awareness. So you're the rat that's been creeping around my walls. His voice is steady, but there's a dangerous weight to it. Soren tilts her head, sizing him up. Yeah, I am. And I almost kill everyone here without you noticing, she said in a mocking voice. The mage smirks, tapping his staff against the stone. A thin layer of frost spreads outward, cracking the surface of the wall beneath them. You're fast. I'll give you that, he says. But stealth won't save you now. Soren flips a dagger between her fingers, her stance relaxed. You sure? She moves. A flicker of motion. 1 second she's in front of him, the next she's at his side, daggers flashing toward his ribs. But the mage is no amateur. A burst of icy wind explodes from his staff. Soren is forced to retreat as the cold cuts through the air, sharp as blades. She flips backward, landing lightly, but the frost clings to her cloak, spreading unnaturally fast. She rips it off just as it stiffens, turning brittle and shattering like glass. The mage chuckles. Clever. But you won't evade forever. Soren doesn't respond. She's already moving. She activates Shadow Step, a Tier 2 skill. Her body flickers, phasing through the thin layer of ice beneath her, reappearing behind him in an instant. Her dagger plunges toward his spine. Ice barrier. A dome of thick frost erupts around the mage, blocking the strike. The impact sends cracks through the ice, but it holds. Soren tisks, retreating as the barrier shatters outward in jagged shards, forcing her to dodge. You rely too much on tricks, the mage says, raising his staff. Try facing magic head-on. Chapter 116, The Black Knight, Cain. A pulse of mana surges from his body. He slams the staff against the ground, casting Frozen Domain, a Tier 3 skill. The temperature drops instantly. The air crystallizes, and the stone beneath their feet turns slick with ice. Soren moves to shift her weight, but her footing betrays her. Her boots skid against the frozen surface. The mage smiles. Slowed already? Soren exhales. She expected this. A lesser assassin might struggle here, but she isn't just any assassin. She activates Phantom Step, a Tier 3 buff skill. Her entire body becomes weightless, her movements unhindered by terrain. She dashes forward as if skating across the ice, closing the gap in a heartbeat. Her daggers gleam. Dagger art, phantom strikes. A Tier 3 skill. A flurry of attacks follows, too fast for the eye to track. She slashes at every vital point. Throat, wrists, heart, lungs. But Frost Warden's Aegis. A Tier 3 defensive spell. An intricate layer of ice armor coats the mage's robes, absorbing the damage. The daggers cut into him, but only shallow wounds appear. Then he counters. A surge of magic erupts from his staff. Glacial chains. Ice shoots from the ground, forming thick chains that snap toward Soren. She twists, evading two, but a third catches her ankle, freezing on contact. The mage grins. Caught you. Soren smirks. Not quite. She vanishes. A shadow flickers across the battlefield. She reappears 10 meters away, completely free. Veil of Night. A Tier 4 skill. The mage's smirk fades. Tier 4. She also activates Death Requiem, her Tier 4 dagger skill. A shadowy mist erupts from her blades, swirling like a living entity. It coils around the mage, wrapping him in a suffocating embrace. The mist seeps into his skin, spreading a deathly chill through his veins. His face twists in pain as his mana flickers erratically, his body rejecting his own magic. What is this? He gasps, stumbling back. Soren steps forward, her eyes glowing faintly under the mist's eerie presence. A requiem. Your last one. She flicks her wrist, sending the mist tightening around him. He screams as his body convulses, his movements sluggish, his magic faltering. But she's not done. With fluid precision, she activates her second Tier 4 skill. Silent End. Her presence vanishes. No sound. No killing intent. The mage's panicked eyes dart around. He can't sense her, can't even tell where the next attack will come from. Then, a dagger pierces through his ribs from behind. His body jerks, blood splattering against the frost-covered stone. He gasps, trying to turn, but another dagger buries itself in his throat. Soren leans in, whispering in his ear. You should have been sure. With a final twist of the blade, she ends him. The mage collapses. Soren watches his body hit the ice, then exhales. The gate lever is unguarded now. But just as she steps forward, she senses something. Presence. Strong. She turns her head, and standing at the other end of the wall who just arrived is a towering figure clad in heavy obsidian armor, a massive sword resting on his shoulder. Unlike the mage, this one radiates pure, unshaken confidence. A level 486 Tier 4 knight. His name is Kane Vorton, a legend among human soldiers. Soren can tell immediately, this isn't an opponent she can defeat alone. The gap between them is overwhelming. Even with her Tier 4 skills, even with all her tricks, she knows. She will die if she fights him alone. But she doesn't let her expression betray that realization. Instead, she tilts her head, a smirk playing on her lips. You're late. I've already killed everyone here. Kane steps forward, the stone beneath his feet cracking under his weight. His deep, gravelly voice carries easily across the wall. And now you die for it. His sword hums with power, dark energy rippling along its length. This isn't just a weapon. It's enchanted, reinforced by countless battles. Soren doesn't hesitate. With a subtle hand movement, she activates her communication sigil, sending a silent signal to Nisara, Thurn, and Veltha. They'll understand. They need to get here. Now. Kane moves. In an instant, he vanishes from sight. His sheer speed unnatural for someone in such heavy armor. Shit. Soren barely reacts in time, twisting away as his blade cleaves through the air where she stood. The force of the swing alone sends a powerful shockwave across the wall, shattering stone and sending debris flying. She flips back, landing lightly, but Kane doesn't give her space. He's already in front of her, his gauntlet-covered fist swinging toward her head. Soren ducks, just barely. The air pressure from the punch alone whips past her, a terrifying reminder of just how deadly a direct hit would be. She retaliates. Dagger art, phantom strikes. Her daggers blur as she slashes at his exposed joints. Elbows, neck, underarms. Precise, ruthless, lethal. But, clang. Her daggers barely scratch his armor. Cain doesn't even flinch. His sword whips around, faster than she can react. Boom! Soren throws herself backward, but the sheer force blasts her off her feet. She barely twists midair, landing in a crouch, but her daggers tremble in her grip. Her arms feel numb. Cain watches her, expression unreadable. Then he exhales, rolling his neck. Humph! Fast. But not enough. Soren's mind races. She's outmatched. She needs to stall, needs to buy time. She lets out a slow breath, forcing a cocky grin. You talk a lot for someone who's failed to kill me already. Then he moves again. Too fast. His blade comes down like a judgment from the heavens. A single, devastating strike that could end her right now. But, before the blade lands, a deafening crash shakes the wall. A massive, armored limb slams into Cain's sword, deflecting it mid-strike. The sheer force splits the battlements, sending chunks of stone crashing to the streets below. Cain slides back, his boots digging into the cracked stone. A low, chittering laugh follows. Nasara has arrived. She stands beside Soren, her massive arachnid form towering over the battlefield. Her great shield, the one that just blocked Cain's attack, glows with layered enchantments. She grins, her fangs glinting. You looked like you needed help, Soren. Soren exhales. Took you long enough. Thurn and Veltha appear moments later. Thurn steps onto the wall with slow, deliberate confidence, his chitin-covered arms flexing as his 8 arachnid legs settle against the cracked stone. His entire body exudes poison, the air around him growing thick with a faint violet mist. Veltha slithers beside him, her scaled tail coiling around a fallen pillar as her forked tongue flicks out. The markings along her body glow with a dull golden hue, her bloodline's power awakening. Her clawed fingers twitch, dark magic swirling around them, pulsing with venom. She flicks her daggers. All right then, let's kill this bastard. Cain stands across from them, silent. Then he smirks. Come then, show me what you're worth. The battle begins. Cain moves first. A single step. Boom. The sheer force shatters the stone beneath him as he lunges straight for Soren. But this time she's not alone. A figure intercepts him, Nasara. Her foldable sword-like limbs extend, their razor-sharp edges gleaming as she slashes mid-air, meeting Cain's blade head-on. The impact sends a shockwave through the wall, cracks spiderwebbing across the battlefield. Cain grunts, his stance shifting to absorb the blow. Before Cain can counter, Thurn moves. With an inhuman burst of speed, he lunges from the side, his chitin-covered arms shifting unnaturally. His fingers extend into needle-like claws, glistening with a thick, viscous venom. Tier 4 bloodline skill. Venomous erosion. A single scratch, just one, would be enough to melt through steel and flesh alike. The air around his claws hisses as the poison reacts with the stone beneath them, corroding it instantly. Cain doesn't underestimate him. His obsidian blade shifts, redirecting Nasara's attack with a powerful twist before swinging backward to intercept Thurn's claws. Clang. Sparks erupt as metal meets chitin. Thurn grits his fangs, feeling the force reverberate through his limbs. But he doesn't retreat. Instead, Tier 4 skill. Abyssal Toxin. A pulse of dark energy spreads from Thurn's body, the thick purple mist around him turning nearly black. It sinks into the cracks of the stone, seeping into the air. Cain exhales sharply, his armor's enchantments activating, resisting the creeping effect. But the momentary distraction is all Veltha needs. Tier 4A bloodline skill. Serpent's Fangs. Her fingertips elongate, forming dagger-like claws that glisten with concentrated venom. They bypass armor, sinking into the gaps between plates, delivering a poison that attacks both body and mana. Cain moves. With precise control, He shifts his weight, raising his gauntlet to block her strike. The poison eats into the metal, sizzling upon contact. A devastating punch slams into Veltha's torso, sending her flying backward. She crashes against the battlements, coughing, but her body twists midair, regaining balance. The glow in her scales intensifies. She grins, wiping blood from her lip. Cain rolls his shoulders, his smirk fading slightly as he takes a steady breath. His armor is corroded in spots, faint traces of poison eating away at the enchanted metal. Inside, he's shocked. 2 of them have already used 2 Tier 4 skills? He clenches his grip on his sword, suppressing the unease creeping into his mind. He, a knight of the strongest kingdom, only possesses 1 Tier 4 skill. And yet, these monsters, these creatures, are wielding power that surpasses expectations. He exhales, no holding back. A surge of mana erupts from his body as he activates every Tier 3 buff skill in his arsenal. Champion's Valor. Knight's Resolve. Blood of the Tyrant. His muscles tighten, his speed sharpens, and his sword pulses with newfound strength. The air around him distorts, the sheer pressure of his presence now overwhelming. Nasara narrows her eyes. Here we go. Cain moves. This time he's faster. Much faster. With a single burst, he closes the distance between him and Thurn in the blink of an eye. Thurn barely raises his arms before. Boom! Cain's sword slams into him with monstrous force, sending him flying through the battlements. Stone shatters, dust explodes into the air, and a massive crater forms where Thurn lands. Thurn! Veltha hisses. Chapter 117. Cain's Death. She and Nasara react instantly. Nasara's limbs carve through the air like lightning, while Veltha's tail whips toward Cain with enough force to split a huge tree in half. Cain doesn't dodge. He counters. His blade twists, meeting Nasara's strike head-on. The moment their weapons collide, he rotates his wrist, parrying the attack at an angle that forces Nasara off balance. Veltha's tail is next. Cain pivots on his heel, ducking low as the massive tail swings past his head. Before Veltha can recover, he drives his gauntlet-covered fist into her abdomen. Crack. Veltha chokes as she's sent hurtling backward. But before Cain can capitalize, a shadow flickers. Soren. Her dagger is already at his neck. Shying. Cain tilts his head at the last second, avoiding a fatal strike, but the tip of the dagger grazes his cheek, drawing blood. Soren vanishes again. TCH. Cain wipes the blood away, his expression still composed. Then he senses it. A presence above him. He looks up. Nasara is mid-air, her 2 massive sword limbs glowing with a dark crimson light. Tier 4 skill. Blade Queen's Wrath. With a fierce battle cry, she brings both weapons down, the force behind them enough to carve through a fortress. Cain's instincts scream. He raises his blade. Clang. The impact is monstrous. The entire wall quakes as Cain is forced to his knees for the first time. His sword, powerful as it is, trembles against the raw force of Nasara's attack. But Nasara isn't done. From the ground, Thurn rises, his body pulsing with violet energy. His carapace is cracked, his face twisted in fury. A dark aura surges around him. Tier 4 skill. Abyssal Toxin, second release. The poison in the air thickens, solidifying into black tendrils that wrap around Cain's limbs, attempting to immobilize him. At the same time, Veltha moves in, her claws glowing with venom, ready to strike. Soren reappears behind him, both daggers aimed at the gaps in his armor. For enemies, 3 different angles, all striking at once. For the first time since the battle began, Cain is overwhelmed, but he does not falter. Instead, his lips curl into a smirk. Enough! Mana surges around him, the air vibrating with an ominous pressure. The sheer force of it sends ripples through the battlefield, forcing Nasara, Thurn, Veltha, and Soren to instinctively brace themselves. Then, Tier 4 skill. Tyrant's Dominion. Boom! A shockwave erupts from Cain's body, blasting outward like an unstoppable force. The black tendrils of Thurn's abyssal toxin disintegrate instantly, as if burned away by sheer will. The battlements beneath his feet crack and explode outward, sending debris flying in all directions. Nasara's eyes widen. Move! Too late. The wave of force slams into all four of them. Nasara is thrown backward, her massive frame crashing through a section of the wall. The impact sends stone and ice cascading down into the battlefield below. Thurn's body twists violently midair before he's launched straight into a ruined watchtower. The structure crumbles on impact, swallowing him in a cloud of dust and debris. Veltha tries to coil her tail around a broken pillar to stabilize herself, but the force is too strong. She's hurled like a whip, her body skidding across the cracked stone before slamming into an iron gate. A gasp escapes her lips as she coughs blood, her golden scales now marred with cracks. Soren vanishes at the last moment, trying to escape the blast with her speed. But Kane is already there. He anticipates her movement, shifting his stance and striking with terrifying precision. His sword flashes through the air, catching Soren mid-step. A thin line of blood splashes against the cold stone. Soren gasps as a deep gash opens across her side. She stumbles, her knees nearly giving out from the sudden pain. She tries to fade back into the shadows, but her body refuses to respond. With her blood, monster, this is the end. Soren grits her teeth, forcing herself to stand. Despite the burning pain, she smirks. You sure about that? Kane narrows his eyes, about to strike again, but a screeching sound fills the air. Nasara emerges from the rubble, her crimson eyes burning with fury. Her sword limbs unfold with a sharp metallic shining, the edges glowing with renewed energy. That hurt, she growls. Veltha, despite her injuries, pushes herself up. Her tail coils, steadying her stance. TCH. You really are a monster, huh? From the ruins of the watchtower, the rubble shifts. Then, Thurn rises, his body wreathed in an even darker mist. His carapace, cracked from the impact, leaks a sickly violet venom. His mandibles click together as his voice rumbles. He bleeds, Thurn says, his glowing eyes locking onto Kane's still bleeding cheek. That means he can die. Soren wipes the blood from her mouth and chuckles. Agreed. The four of them exchange glances. Injured but alive. Outmatched, but not beaten. The four of them exchange glances. Injured but alive. Outmatched, but not beaten. Kane exhales, rolling his shoulders. Still standing? Good. He plants his sword into the ground for a moment, his mana still surging around him like an untamed storm. Then let's finish this. Kane's eyes narrow as he surveys his opponents. Despite their injuries, the four adversaries stand resolute, their determination unwavering. Each combatant poised for the next move. This time, their attacks are seamless. Nasara, Thurn, Veltha, and Soren move in perfect sync, like predators circling wounded prey. There is no hesitation, no wasted movement. Each attack flows into the next, creating a relentless onslaught that even Kane struggles to counter. Kane blocks a downward slash from Nasara's sword limbs, but before he can counter, Veltha strikes from his blind spot. Her venom-coated claws rake against his armor, leaving behind sizzling marks. He pivots, raising his sword to slash at her, but Thurn is already there. His chitin-covered arm slams into Kane's gauntlet, redirecting the strike just enough to throw off its momentum. Kane grits his teeth, twisting his body, but Soren appears behind him, her daggers flashing toward his exposed neck. Chapter 118. Nobles Getting Executed. Clang. Kane barely raises his shoulder blade in time, deflecting the lethal blow, but the dagger still cuts into his flesh, drawing more blood. His breathing grows heavier. They're getting faster. They're adapting. And worse, his body feels heavy. The poison, Thurn's and Veltha's venom, subtle at first, is beginning to take its toll. His muscles burn with each movement. His sword, once an extension of his will, now feels just a fraction slower. His breathing turns ragged as sweat drips down his face. Damn it. He knows. If this fight drags on, he will die. I won't die here. With a roar, Cain channels the last of his strength and activates every Tier 2 buff skill he has left. Indomitable Knight increases physical endurance beyond mortal limits. Blade Mastery, Limit Break, enhances reflexes, speed, and precision for a short duration. Warrior's Wrath converts pain into strength. A wave of raw power explodes from his body. The poison still lingers, but his will overrides it, for now. For a moment. Then they use their final Tier 4 skills. Nisara's Execution. Her sword limbs extend unnaturally, striking from angles impossible to predict. Thurn's Venomous Abyss. His body releases a concentrated miasma that seeps into wounds, accelerating the poison's effects tenfold. Veltha's Serpent's Last Embrace. She coils around Cain, her tail locking his movements while venom courses through her fangs, ready to deliver a finishing bite. Cain fights like a demon, breaking free from Veltha's coils, deflecting Nisara's strikes, and even punching through Thurn's poisonous mist. But his movements slow, his vision blurs, his breathing turns shallow. Then, a dagger pierces his heart. Soren stands behind him, her eyes locked onto his fading strength. The blade is deep, too deep. For the first time, Cain's sword slips from his grasp. The great knight stumbles forward, his armor stained with blood, his strength finally leaving him. Cain's vision dims, the world around him fading into a blur. He collapses to his knees, the weight of his injuries and the poison coursing through his veins too much to bear. Soren withdraws her dagger, her breath heavy but her eyes triumphant. "It's over," she declares, wiping Cain's blood from her blade. Nisara approaches, her massive form casting a shadow over the fallen knight. "He fought valiantly," she admits, her tone a mix of respect and relief. "But even the strongest have their limits." Veltha, still clutching her wounded side, nods. "If he had possessed even one more Tier 4 skill, we might not have survived this battle," she muses, acknowledging the narrow margin of their victory. Thurn, his carapace cracked and leaking venom, steps forward. "We need to open the gate and seize control of this city." The four warriors, battered but resolute, share a glance. Their ordeal has been grueling, but their objective remains clear. Soren sheathes her daggers, her eyes scanning the surroundings. "Let's move," she urges. Together, they turn towards the massive iron gate that stands between them and their conquest. Soren grips the cold iron lever, her breath steadying as she pulls it down. The ancient mechanisms groan in protest, but the massive gate begins to creak open. "Finally," Nisara mutters, wiping blood from her brow. "The city is ours." As the gate yawns open, their forces surge forward, a tide of warriors flooding the streets. The defenders, caught off guard, scramble to form ranks but are swiftly overwhelmed. "Press on," Soren shouts, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Show no mercy." Nisara's sword limbs flash as she leads the charge, cutting down any who stand in their way. Veltha's tail lashes out, crushing shields and bones alike. Zinnov reads the report in his message, his brow furrowing deeply. The news of their defeat with their first clash with the monsters is unexpected, especially considering that the four commanders of the monsters have just reached Tier 4, and Cain is known for his exceptional strength even among other Tier 4 combatants. Taking a deep breath to steady himself, Zinnov immediately issues orders to his subordinates. "Summon all division leaders to the command tent at once," he commands, his voice steady but urgent. "Yes, Marshal," a young officer responds, hurrying out to relay the order. In the heart of the Erevaris kingdom, within the dimly lit confines of his training chamber, Alex stands amidst an array of ancient weapons and mystical artifacts. His muscles ripple under the strain as he executes a series of precise maneuvers, sweat glistening on his brow. A soft chime interrupts his focus, a notification from the system. Pausing, Alex wipes his brow and summons the system interface. The message displays, "Treasury has received 500,000 gold coins." A satisfied smile tugs at the corner of his lips. The integration of the system inventory with the kingdom's treasury, overseen by Minister of Finance Lyric, has proven advantageous. In the grand hall of the royal palace, King Edric paces furiously, his footsteps echoing off the stone walls. The recent reports of the 5 monster commanders dividing their forces to attack multiple towns, drawing ever closer to the capital, have frayed his nerves. How could this happen? Does the 2 kingdoms help too useless? Edric's voice booms, his face flushed with anger. Sir Alden, the king's trusted advisor, stands nearby, his expression a mix of concern and caution. "Your Majesty, our forces are stretched thin. The enemy's strategy is cunning. Dividing their troops has made it challenging to mount an effective defense." Edric slams his fist onto the armrest of his throne. "And what of the nobles? Those who sided with Duke Finn? Their actions led to us being unable to reclaim Mizorn. Had they not acted, we might not be in this dire position." Alden hesitates before responding. "Sire, while some nobles were indeed complacent, not all were complicit. We must exercise caution in our judgments." But Edric's patience has worn thin. "Enough! I will not tolerate betrayal, whether by action or inaction. Those who failed the kingdom will face justice." Within days, several nobles are arrested and executed on Edric's orders, their alleged crimes tied to their association with Duke Finn. Chapter 119, The Waiting Trap, Part 1. The swift and severe punishments send shockwaves through the aristocracy. In a dimly lit chamber, a group of nobles gathers, their faces etched with worry. "This is madness," a lord mutters, his voice trembling. "The king executes our peers without proper evidence. Who among us is safe?" A lady noble nods in agreement. "We must act. If we remain silent, we risk our lives and the very fabric of our nobility." Another lord, older and with a stern demeanor, raises a hand. "We cannot openly oppose the king, but we must make our grievances known. A delegation to plead for reason, perhaps." The nobles murmur in agreement, understanding the delicate balance they must maintain. Back in the palace, Alden approaches Edric cautiously. "Your Majesty, unrest grows among the nobility. They feel threatened by the recent executions." Edric's eyes narrow. "Let them feel threatened. Perhaps then they'll remember their duty to the crown." Alden bows his head, concern evident. "I fear pushing them too hard may lead to rebellion, sire. We need unity now more than ever." Edric sighs, the weight of leadership bearing down on him. "What would you have me do? Sit idly by while traitors undermine our kingdom?" "No, your Majesty," Alden replies gently. "But discernment is key. Justice must be tempered with wisdom." Edric falls silent, contemplating his advisor's words, as the kingdom teeters on the brink of internal strife amidst external threats. In the command tent, Marshal Zinev sits at the head of a large wooden table, his fingers massaging his temples as he reviews the latest reports. Across from him, Pavel leans forward, his eyes scanning the same documents. Zinev exhales sharply, placing the papers down. "These Ralphian soldiers are barely more than farmers with spears," he mutters. "If I had my troops, it would be a different story." Pavel nods, his brow furrowed. "Agreed. Their lack of discipline is evident. But dwelling on what we lack won't change our situation." Pavel leans back slightly, choosing his words carefully. "Marshal, how about this? Instead of passively waiting, we should take the initiative. Let's attack them separately. By doing so, we can exploit their lack of coordination and possibly determine if they have more Tier 5 combatants among them." Zinev's eyes narrow as he considers the suggestion. "You're suggesting we engage in detail, defeating isolated enemy units before they can consolidate their strength?"
Pavel nods.
"Exactly. By targeting their fragmented units, we can reduce their numbers and gather intelligence on their capabilities." Zinev taps his fingers on the table, deep in thought. "It's a risky move. Our own forces are not at their peak." Pavel leans forward, his voice steady. True, but waiting will only allow them to strengthen. Taking the offensive might disrupt their plans and give us the upper hand. After a long pause, Zinov exhales and nods. Very well. Prepare the orders. We'll strike their isolated units at dawn. Pavel's lips curve into a slight smile. Good. I'll lead the adventurers, you lead the soldiers. I'll target Kras City. I've heard it's become a bustling marketplace. The adventurers will be more than happy to join me. Zinov raises an eyebrow. Kras City? Is a strategic location. If we can secure it, we'll disrupt their supply lines.
Pavel nods.
Exactly. As the strongest adventurer in Ordea Kingdom, I have enough reputation to lead the stubborn adventurers. They'll follow me into battle. Zinov thought, Pavel is not a soldier, so I can't order him around. Even though I'm stronger, we're both still tier 5. Zinov leans back, studying Pavel. Okay, I trust your judgment. The bustling marketplace of Kras City moves as usual, unaware of the storm about to descend upon it. Merchants haggle over prices, carts creak under the weight of goods, and the scent of freshly baked bread mingles with the metallic tang of sharpened steel from the local blacksmith. But beyond the city walls, a different kind of business is unfolding. Pavel and the adventurers, hardened warriors from different fields, have taken positions around the outskirts, waiting for the right moment to strike. Hidden in alleys, on rooftops, and within the tree line, they hold their breath, ready for the command. Unbeknownst to them, Varkas already knows they're coming. Thanks to the shadows, the monster army is prepared. Sorin, Nasara, Thurn, and Veltha stand at the ready with 50,000 disciplined soldiers, concealed along both flanks of the city. They wait, poised like coiled vipers, allowing the adventurers to step further into their trap before the jaws snap shut. Sorin crouches in the shadows, her daggers glinting faintly in the dim light. Her eyes remain locked on the rooftops, watching the movements of the adventurers. They're moving in as expected, she whispers. Nasara, standing nearby, flexes her elongated sword limbs. Good. Let them come. When they commit to the attack, we'll strike from both sides. Thurn tilts his head, his voice calm but laced with malice. And if they try to retreat? Veltha coils her serpentine lower half, her fangs glistening with venom. Then they die tired. They wait. Then, a figure rises into the sky, floating above the city like an omen of destruction. Zinov, his presence commanding and ominous. Channeling his energy, he unleashes a tier 4 skill, a massive torrent of fire that engulfs the city's outer defenses. The sudden explosion sends shockwaves through Kras City. Pavel raises his great sword, rallying his comrades. Now, for Ordea! With a unified roar, the adventurers charge, breaching the city's perimeter amidst the chaos. At that moment, Varkas gives the signal. From the shadows, the monster forces surge forward, encircling the unsuspecting adventurers. Sorin leads her unit with lethal precision, targeting the rear guard. Nasara's soldiers clash head-on, their brute strength halting the adventurers' momentum. Thurn's contingent rains venomous arrows from elevated positions, sowing further confusion. Veltha's forces strike from the flanks, cutting off any chance of retreat. Pavel, realizing the trap, bellows, "Hold the line! Don't let them divide us!" But the ambush is expertly executed, exploiting the adventurers' fragmented formation and lack of cohesive strategy. Chapter 120. The Waiting Trap, Part 2. Despite their valor, the adventurers find themselves overwhelmed, their assault on Kras City turning into a desperate fight for survival. Above, Pavel watches the unfolding chaos, his expression unreadable. Amidst the turmoil, Varkas steps forward, his eyes locked onto Zinov. With a deep growl, his form begins to shift. Muscles bulge, bones crack, and dark fur sprouts across his body. In moments, he stands transformed, a towering lycanthrope, embodying both human intellect and wolf ferocity. Pavel, observing from the ground, lets out a hearty laugh, gripping his massive greatsword with anticipation. "So you're all here," Pavel calls out, his voice echoing over the battlefield. That means no one is stopping Zinov. Varkas's lupin eyes narrow as he responds, his voice a guttural snarl. You think I'm the only tier 5? There are others who will handle Zinov. But you, he points a clawed finger at Pavel, will find your grave here. Without further warning, Varkas lunges at Pavel with blinding speed, his claws aiming for Pavel's throat. Pavel raises his greatsword just in time, the clash of steel against claw ringing out. The force of the impact sends shockwaves through the ground, causing nearby combatants to stumble. Pavel grins, pushing back against Varkas's strength. Finally, Pavel says, his green eyes gleaming with excitement. A real challenge. He pivots, using his momentum to swing the greatsword in a wide arc aimed at Varkas's midsection. Varkas leaps back, narrowly avoiding the blade, and retaliates with a swift kick to Pavel's chest. Pavel skids backward but remains upright, his armor absorbing most of the blow. The two warriors circle each other, the battlefield around them a blur of clashing forces. Varkas's lycanthropic senses allow him to anticipate Pavel's moves, while Pavel's combat experience and raw power make him a formidable opponent. Pavel feints to the left before darting right, aiming to flank Varkas. Varkas, anticipating the move, spins and brings his greatsword down with immense force. Pavel crosses his arms, blocking the strike but dropping to one knee under the pressure. Pavel, still kneeling from the force of Varkas's strike, tightens his grip on his greatsword and smirks. I admit you're very strong, he taunts, rising to his feet. But do you know why we adventurers can defeat stronger opponents? As if on cue, two figures appear behind Pavel. They are humanoid monsters, both strikingly beautiful, adorned in ornate robes that shimmer with arcane energy. Their eyes glow softly, indicating their magical prowess. Varkas's expression twists into one of disgust. You enslave monsters to do your bidding? He growls, his claws flexing. Your kind's depravity knows no bounds. Pavel shrugs nonchalantly. I prefer to think of it as utilizing all available resources. Meet Lyra and Celine, my trusted aides. Lyra, a lithe figure with emerald hair, begins chanting, her hands weaving intricate patterns in the air. A golden aura envelopes Pavel as she casts Fortify Vitality, a tier 3 spell that enhances his endurance and accelerates healing. Simultaneously, Celine, with her silver locks cascading down her back, raises her staff and intones a melodic incantation. A translucent barrier forms around Pavel, the Aegis Shield, a tier 4 spell that significantly boosts his defense against both physical and magical attacks. Feeling the surge of power from the buffs, Pavel rolls his shoulders and grins. Now, shall we continue? Varkas snarls, his disdain evident. Come on. He lunges forward, his claws aiming for Pavel's throat. Pavel reacts with heightened speed, parrying Varkas's strike with his greatsword. The enhanced endurance from Lyra's spell allows him to absorb the impact without faltering. He counters with a swift horizontal slash, aiming for Varkas's midsection. Varkas leaps back, narrowly avoiding the blade. He circles Pavel, searching for an opening. With a guttural growl, he unleashes Rending Claw, a tier 3 skill that sends a wave of energy shaped like claw marks hurtling toward Pavel. Pavel braces himself as the attack crashes against the Aegis Shield, the barrier shimmering but holding firm. Seizing the moment, he charges forward, activating Bull Rush, a tier 3 skill that propels him with immense force toward Varkas. The sudden burst catches Varkas off guard. Pavel slams into him, sending the lycanthrope skidding backward. Without giving him a chance to recover, Pavel follows up with Cleave, a tier 4 skill that delivers a powerful, sweeping strike capable of hitting multiple foes. Varkas manages to raise his arms in defense, but the impact sends a shockwave through his body. He snarls, blood seeping from a gash on his forearm. Is this how you fight? Hiding behind slaves and spells? Pavel chuckles. It's called strategy. Perhaps you should try it sometime. Varkas's eyes blaze with determination as he watches Pavel's smug demeanor. He knows that to